When it comes to crafting gear, you can hold my beer. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Bront CatHerder, and we're having some fun playing Raid Shadow Legends. Now, it's been a while since I've recorded a video, but I wanted to get back into it, and I've been asked about the Forge quite a bit, so I figured let's do a little bit of a gear deep dive and discuss how to craft stuff for the Forge, how to get the best gear out of Forge, what you should be looking for, no matter where you are in progression, and let's have some fun along the way. All right, so here in the Forge, we've got a large list of sets available for us to look at. Some of these are Doom Tower, some of these are the Forge Pass, a couple of these are ones you can earn in Faction Guardians, and a few of these are special Faction Guardians that you can only use using these core hammers that you can collect. These are also the sets that you can collect in live arena, not live arena, in regular arena if you finish in Platinum. So not to go over too many of these sets here, but in particular, Perception is a core progression set. It is very good. It gives you the accuracy and speed. It is useful on a lot of champions. It is useful even if you don't need the accuracy for the extra speed. It's useful to craft. Resilience, the other faction set, is average. It's better than some of the individual HP or defense sets. It's good for a lot of support champions. It's useful to just have gear to throw on people. Nothing special, but it's not too bad. Some of the better sets include Guardian, has a lot of use. It allows you to absorb damage from other allies, and it then heals that champion every turn they take. So it's a slightly inferior to regeneration, but with some extra bonuses. Lethal is Savage with a bonus. Very good set. That's a Doom Tower set as well. Instinct is a decent nuker set, one of the first Forge passes. Bolster is better than Shield set, one of the first Forge passes, gives you some healing as well. Defiant is very similar to Stalwart, very decent set as well, very usable. Righteous is a speed set with resistance, highly useful. And Slayer, which used to be called the Rathlos set, is a very incredible PvE, mostly focused, or AoE focused, I guess is a better way to put it, set. Very, very good. Overall, the Forge Pass sets are all very good. The Doom Tower sets range from not very usable, such as Affinity Breaker, which has some very niche use cases, or Bloodthirst, which if you're outgrowing lifesteal gear, you're going to be outgrowing Bloodthirst. Two things like Guardian, which can be useful in endgame arena, as well as Hydra. Lethal, which is just plain old useful. Fortitude, which is not too bad. Frostbite even has a few edge case uses. So there's some decent sets in here. But what we're going to talk about is getting the most out of forging the sets. And that's going to involve dealing with glyphs, knowing when to forge, what to forge, and overall what you're looking for when you forge. All right, just for clarification, I said glyphs, I meant charms. I get those two confused a lot. But charms are what make a lot of the forging very, very good. You've got your rank and rarity charms, which basically give you a better chance to get a higher rank or a higher rarity. You have mythical charms introduced with the Cursed City Centranos. They give you a chance to have a mythical piece, also very useful. You have the type charms. These can be good if you're fishing for specific types of gear. I tend not to use these too often, particularly the top three are not particularly useful, but sometimes you're really looking for gauntlets, you're looking for chests, you're looking for boots, and you want to increase the chance, so they can be very useful for that. But substat charms, this is where forging is at. Unlike when you're farming gear, substat charms allow you to say, I want to get this particular set, and I want to have an increased chance of having this substat on this piece. And that is very, very powerful. It's one thing, for example, to be farming Savage gear and just get whatever random stuff you have on there versus farming Savage gear and be able to say, I want to make sure that I'm getting crit rate, or I'm getting crit damage, or I'm getting speed. You can make so much better gear when you've got a chance of having at least one substat that you want on the piece at a very high rate. So these substat charms are absolutely crucial. They are a hot commodity. Which ones are the most important? Well, speed is probably the most important stat, so speed charms are some of the most important. For your nukers, crit rate charms can be very good for building up some of the gear you can use. Once you've got a lot of the crit rate already on some of the pieces, crit damage becomes a more limiting factor for your nukers, and so you want more crit damage on all of your nuking pieces. As far as support's concerned, accuracy is always important. Resistance can be very important. Uh, HP can be very important to request on a couple of types of them. Attack and defense generally tend to be much less useful. In most cases, if you want HP or defense, you'll pick HP over defense, particularly because things like shields tend to run more off of HP, and most of the sets that use any sort of stat are going to want HP over defense. But occasionally defense charm doesn't hurt too much. Attack charms, either if you're looking for attack percent, you're very rarely looking for attack percent and only attack percent. You're more likely looking for a crit rate or crit damage on a nuker, or speed, or accuracy before you start looking for attack on just about any champion. So you're not going to find a lot of use of the attack charms. Yeah, that is charms in a nutshell, and that is why forging gear is very powerful. So let's go take a look and give some examples of what you might do and what you might look for with forging. All right, so I'll use my untouchable here as a good example of what to look for forging and how I might go about it. So you'll see we've got 3 different indicators on the top. We've got how many 3 to 4 stars we can make. We have a how many 4 to 5 stars we can make, and a how many 5 to 6 stars we can make. Early on, when you're forging gear, especially when you really are maybe even using 3-star gear, you don't mind forging the 3 to 4 star gear, and occasionally you wouldn't mind forging the 4 to 5 star gear. But in general, you either want to forge the 3 to 4 star gear or 5 to 6 star gear. And the reason why is 3-star gear uses the blue materials and only blue materials. 4 to 5-star gear uses both the blue materials and the purple materials, so it uses the rare and the epic materials. Forging the 5-star gear or 6-star gear, which is really what you're looking for in late game, end game, and honestly even towards the mid game, you're looking to get to 5 and 6-star only gear, uses the epic and the legendary materials. So the reason this is not good is you're using up epic materials that could prevent you from forging 5 and 6-star gear because you run out of these epic materials at a pretty good rate. You use 10 of them per thing you're forging. So oftentimes that's one of the limiting factors, is how much of this epic gear you have. Obviously the legendaries could be limiting. In this case, it's that's what's going on for me. But in general, I want to forge as much 5 and 6-star gear as I can, and I don't want to be forging 4 to 5-star gear. Now, I have no problem forging 3 or 4-star gear because this is 84 pieces of gear that I can forge and sell immediately, and that's 84 pieces of gear that I can now use as silver in my pocket. It's also CVC points if you're looking for CVC points. Another thing of note is the 3 to 4-star gear, because you cannot have anything less than 5-star mythic, does not allow you to put the mythic charm, which is the charm that we have down here in the middle. 4 to 5-star also does not allow you to use mythic charms. It's only the 5 to 6-star gear that allows you to even have a mythic charm in the first place. That's worth noting. It's very important. All right, so let's take a look at the Slayer gear here. Slayer gear is some of the important gear. So Slayer gear is very powerful. It's worth forging. It's worth purchasing if you're spending money. If you don't spend money, that's fine. You still will have a little bit of forge gear that you could possibly craft based off of doing the forge pass. Hopefully you did at least try to finish the forge pass as much as possible to get a little clue of this crafting. So because these are important pieces that I care a lot about, I would craft them with a rank charm and a rarity charm. And in this case, I'd even go as far as putting a mythical charm, because getting mythical Slayer gear is a big deal. I might look at my collection to see, am I short on gauntlets? Am I short on chest pieces? Am I short on boots? I'm not as worried about getting the top pieces because I'm not throwing away the top pieces based off of the main stat, whereas the gauntlets, chest plates, and boots, I will be throwing them away if they're, or at least possibly not using them, if they come up as flat stats such as flat HP, flat attack, and flat defense, or in some cases the gauntlets, even if the gauntlets are things like attack percent, defense percent, HP percent, that's not very useful in Slayer. I want crit rate or I want crit damage, and that's about it. So I might think about putting a couple of gauntlet charms in here to try to aim to get a few more usable gauntlets. Boots, very similar. You're not going to keep the flat stats. You will be keeping the percentage stats, and you will be keeping the speed boots as well, because sometimes you want speed boots and sometimes you're going to want extra nuking stats. Chest piece, very similar. You might even keep some accuracy chests. You're probably not, however, going to keep resistance chests because you're not going to have a nuking resistance champion. It doesn't work at the moment. So as I mentioned before, gauntlets is actually fairly limited. So we're going to go in here and we're going to grab the gauntlet charms. And then we are going to look at the substat charms to see what we have. I'm looking for nuking, so HP is not particularly good. I mentioned how attack's not good, and Emergency defense is not good. Speed can be very good if I'm worried about getting speed on some of these things. I know I've got a decent amount of speed already in my Slayer set, so I'm not super worried about it. Plus, there's some speed built into the Slayer set as well. So I'm worried about damage. So I'm looking for either crit rate or crit damage. Now, the only reason I might not choose to use a crit damage charm on gloves is because I'm ultimately looking for a crit damage piece. So looking for crit rate and hoping I get a crit damage glove, that's great. So another reason to look for speed, because speed will be good on the crit rate or the crit damage gloves, meaning this charm is not really wasted. There's some people who have believed that if I put one of these charms here, it actually can affect what I can roll for the main stat. That is not the case. The main stat is rolled before it figures out what substats you have, before the charms even come into place. If you roll a main stat of something you use a charm for, you unfortunately still lose the charm, which kind of sucks. A crit damage charm is not going to prevent you from getting crit damage gloves, for example. So you always want to be using these. So we're going to go with a speed charm. Crit rate's not bad here, but for gloves, we're going to go for crit rate. And I'm going to craft 10 of these, and we'll go and evaluate these quickly and take a look at what we're looking at. All right, so we can skip through the animations. They're nice, but not a big deal. All right, I'm only looking at 6-star gear. So this is attack percent with 2 substats I don't care about in attack percent glove gear, so I'm going to sell that. Gloves, these are flat, but these are epic. So I may hold on to these to possibly re-roll them because there's only so much Slayer gear we're going to get. So I might keep that to ore. So I'll keep that for now. I might roll it up. Another attack percent. This has got, if this was a crit damage piece of gear, I would be ecstatic right now because this would be amazing. It's not, unfortunately, but I'll keep it for the same reason I mentioned beforehand. This is a 5-star. I don't really care. Attack percent with speed. Not really. This, I could see an argument for this if we're going with a bomber maybe, but I've built so few bombers and I don't think Slayer is the right set for bombers because we need the accuracy as well. So this is really not a keep. It's even blue, so it's not worth re-rolling. Alrighty. Speed, good to have. Accuracy, not bad to have on Slayer. You could need accuracy on this. Flat attack, not great, but it's something. This is worth keeping. This is worth rolling up. If it rolls triple into something I don't want, like accuracy or attack, it might get ored. If I roll 3 into speed, I'll be super happy because that'll be a very usable piece, so that'll be kept. Gloves, not good. We did get 3 gloves so far. It looks like we got a few more. We can double check that. These are not really going to fit well, though. All right, so we got 4 total gloves on this roll, and that's where your entry stance is. You're going to get, you know, somewhere between 2 to 5, ideally, in a 10-pack on average when you're using that particular charm. It can vary. It is random. Again, Polarium loves their RNG, but it's, you know, it's still worth doing. These are 5-star crit rate. Okay, these are at least somewhat usable. I've got speed and attack percent. Those are 2 usable substats. And this set is so good that I'm going to keep these for now because these could be usable on somebody to get, especially if I need to have somebody going super fast. Having a crit rate glove allows you to make a champion go faster because you don't need the crit rate substats anymore to increase damage. Hey, there we go. These will be great on an HP nuker. So HP percent, good for an HP nuker. Speed, good for an HP nuker. Crit damage, good for an HP numer. I have 2 good substats. Flat defense, not super exciting, not the worst thing in the world. Roll these up, hopefully it hits between speed and crit damage. And I've got a nice pair of HP nuker boots in Slayer. Should be very good, especially with folks that have a lot of AoEs. What type of champion I might use on this? An Eric's would actually be good with these, actually. These actually might be really good for an Eric's, so we'll have to take a look at Eric's and see if these will fit. And this is a rare 5-star, so we'll sell that. So none of these pieces were absolutely amazing. And in fact, 2 of these I'm going to re-roll and I would have sold if it was lesser type of gear. But we got 3 gloves, which was what I targeted. We got several 6-piece or 6-star pieces of gear, quite a few of them, in fact. And yeah, a lot of them had speed on it, which that looks like it's working. So that's good. We'll collect those. Let's try a different set. So we are here with Guardian set now. Guardian, again, is a good set. It's worth farming. It's the eternal chicken, as I call it. So we're going to get some rank and rarity and mythical, because I would not mind some mythical Guardian gear. Probably in the important part of this set, we're looking for either boots or chests. So I am going to actually aim for the chest, because I think that gives us the... you know what, let's not aim for anything in particular, because I think that shows a little more. All right, so things that would be good here. This is a support set, so we're looking for speed. You could argue some defense wouldn't be too bad. HP is probably a little more important. Accuracy could be good. Resistance is not a bad one. In fact, we're going to pick resistance, because building resistance in Guardian can be very, very helpful as well, because you might actually build somebody high resistance in Guardian to both tank a bunch of hits and not lose their buffs when they need their buffs. You know, a Duchess in Guardian could be interesting. Usurga in Guardian is actually a lot of fun. There's a lot of champions you can put Guardian in. They'll help you in a lot of different areas. Resistance can be very helpful for some of the tanks that will do that as well. And ideally, since they should be tanky to be able to take some additional hits because they're going to be soaking the damage, resistance can be helpful as well. Again, that's also where HP can be helpful. They're taking extra damage because they're taking damage from other champions and move it over. It's, again, the Ally Protect thing. So Ally Protect is one of the best ways to mitigate damage, because the damage gets taken and it gets reduced a second time. So Ally Protect, very helpful. This is a type of Ally Protect. All right, we're going to forge this. We'll forge these 10 here and see what we get. Ooh, and that is a 5-star. It's so deceptive with lightning, because if it's 5-star, it's usually not super great. All right, this is not a horrible piece if it was 6-star, but it's a 5-star and it's in Guardian. It's not something I'm going to use. Has resistance, though. 6-star helmet, speed, and crit rate. I may keep this because if this rolls speed, this would be good. I do not care about the crit rate, because I'm generally not going to be building a nuker in Guardian. I would keep that. Chest piece, not a great stat in Guardian. Also not a 6-piece, not with these substats. That's a sell. 5-star, sell. Flat HP boots. This is an easier set to farm, so I'm not worried about re-rolling anything. Sell that. Guardian, sell that. Shield, will sell that. Shield, still not great. We'll sell that. Flat defense, not worth, sell that. And attack boots. This is not the set for attack boots. Good stats for attack boots. I would love this in another set, and ideally love this as a 6-star, but not good right here. So we got one piece. And again, you don't always get what you want. The idea is you're tuning your chances to get something better. So I collect that. And finally, when we're talking about forging gear, some of this also involves where you're at in the game. If you are very early in the game, perception gear, pretty much no matter what star it is, could be very helpful for you. Forging it without any of these charms could be very helpful for you. When you're progressing through faction wars, trying to get your Lydia, any 5 or 6-star gear will do. Perception is going to be lifeblood of your account. You may be using these charms on perception gear pretty regularly. Good perception gear can help progress your account. Worth rolling up, even worth using some of your glyphs on it. Later on in the game, when you start farming, the top levels of Doom Tower, you're looking to compete in high-end arena, you're looking to compete in high-level Hydra, you eventually get so much of this perception. You'll notice right now I can craft 1,000 of these pieces, and it's because I've maxed out the amount of epic stuff I can have. So if I crafted 1,000 of these things, even if I keep 50 pieces, those 50 out of those 1,000 should be pretty good pieces. The rest is going to be silver, so it's nice to have extra silver. And I've got a good shot at getting 50 really good pieces out of 1,000 perception pieces. It's not like farming in Dragon, where the chances of getting a speed piece is 1 in 8, or 3 in 10 if they're doing a triple, for example. Every one of these 1,000 pieces will be perception in some way, shape, or form. And I'm guaranteed that. So it is so much more focused than farming, which allows you to get so much better gear than farming. So overall, forging is really one of the best ways to progress your account. Knowing when to forge, knowing what to forge, knowing when to use those charms and when not to, very, very important. It's not worth using the charms if you know you're not planning on keeping a lot of the gear. Perception, you get a ton of it. You don't need to be using a lot of charms on it at the end game. Early on, it's lifeblood of your account. It cannot hurt to have better perception gear. So hopefully that gives you some good perspective on ways you can use the Forge, how you can use the Forge to progress your account. I have been Bront CatHerder, and I'll hopefully see you later in the next video.